We learned this week of potentially exciting news for the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Cherokee, Choctaw, Navajo, Apache and other First Nations of the United States. Apologies to everyone we missed, which to be honest is pretty much all of them, given that there are, we learned from looking it up just now, fully 574 Native American tribes recognized by the US federal government.
Didn't know that.
Well, I'll be.
You learn something new every day.
We learned, anyway, that said federal government of the United States may shortly be poised to acknowledge the total illegitimacy of its sovereignty over the territories it has long claimed. And we learned this from the personage who presently leads the federal government of the United States as he further pursued the necessary, valuable and sane policy of menacing one of his country's most reliable allies.
By the way, I'm a fan of Denmark, too, I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land.
So we learned, and from the highest of authorities, that it does not mean one single goddamn thing if a crew of your ancestors blundered onto some foreign shore several centuries back, ran up a flag and claimed to own the place. We have not as yet learned of the Seminoles knocking on the door at Mar-a-Lago and giving the occupant an hour to pack his bags, self-awarded golf trophies and stolen classified documents, but the year is young, and if you can't be hopeful in January, when can you?
I think so.
I'd like to teach the world to sing with me.
For we did indeed learn of indications that the new year may break with recent form and usher in a new era of peace, harmony, and everybody just getting along. We learned that even within the generally recently rancorous United States, all forms of ideologically partisan unpleasantness were going to cease forthwith, and we learned this from US Vice President and 2029's Masked Singer's sixth place getter, J.D. Vance.
These people should not feel emboldened because they have, for the first time, maybe in American history, an administration that is not going to tolerate political violence of any kind from anywhere.
From which we learned that the administration in which Vance serves has had quite the rethink vis-a-vis the excusability of political violence during its first year in office.
On the evening of his inauguration, President Donald Trump not wasting any time getting down to business. He has just returned to the White House and is signing a series of executive actions in the Oval Office, where he is pardoning some 1,500 January 6 rioters who have been convicted for participating in the attack on the Capitol 4 years ago.
Peas, 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 eating goober peas.
We also learned that the same administration had solved the United States' chronic obesity issues, as we learned that what may have seemed an absolutely bizarre regimen of tariffs imposed apparently at random upon bewildered American trading partners, including the penguins of the Heard and McDonald Islands. You told them, Keith, which accordingly and inevitably spiked the price of everyone's shopping.
Chances are you feel it. New numbers from the government show prices at the grocery store rose to the steepest since 2022.
Was not the deranged, vindictive bungling it may have looked to the untrained eye, but in fact a cunning plan to render Americans more svelte. And we learned further details of the proposed cuisine of the glorious second Trump era from Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rowlands, who we learned has run the maths on it and everything.
We've run over 1,000 simulations. It can cost around $3 a meal for a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, corn tortilla, and one other thing.
We have not as yet learned, but greatly look forward to discovering the levels of excitement among MAGA voters for their new daily diet of a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, once they've looked up what broccoli even is, a corn tortilla, and, quote, one other thing, and also how many of them assume that the definition of one other thing might include a 48-pack of Krispy Kremes. But we also learned of what this sumptuous feast might be washed down with, and we learned this from the president himself during the portion of a White House event for which he remained awake.
It's actually a legal definition, whole milk, and it's whole with a W for those of you that have a problem.
But We learned, looking with some relief away from the United States, of a potential new means of easing tensions between traditional enemies, i.e. persuading them that being at loggerheads, whatever loggerheads even are, is no match for being behind drum kits.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Let's see where this goes.
Knew you'd be intrigued. We learned this from South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, leaders of nations which traditionally annoy the bejeebers out of each other, who set aside their differences for a K-pop jam. A bit of it sounded like this. We learned that this was followed by the signing of some agreement or other, and this time we will have a verite drum roll to cue up the traditional punchline that everyone may have seen coming from some distance. So this was literally... a symbol of reconciliation, and we learned to our barely expressible delight that for the first time in the history of this, the Friday What We Learned monologue on Monocle Radio, we were able to check out on a story which even supplied its own rim shot. Near enough. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.